Wildcard's been self-destructive from last week. Premiums going on a points frenzy, leaving managers bamboozled. Whilst we've also got the rise of emerging well-afforded midfielders. However, what do we make of it all? Welcome to your one-stop shop, as always, on a weekly basis. It being the FPL Addicts podcast, and for this instalment, it is Game Week 7. Here we go.
I want it that way.
Tell me why. Ain't nothing but the part of it is it being the Addicts podcast, guys. Welcome to once again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Reidy really wanted to do that to introduce everyone to the entire panel. Firstly, Reidy, over to you. And I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, it's all good, mate. Do you know, it was probably a bit weird the fact that you come on and it was my voice in the background. People thinking, what the hell? But yeah, all good, mate. Back for another game week and another installment, as you'd like to call it, of FPL Addicts. And nice to see Quentin's, live from the library, the many books and, many educational stories I'm sure he's got to tell us. He's on mute.
Yeah, no, I'm sitting in the sitting room of the house, made smelling rich and mahogany. So it's
many
nice
leather-bound books, Quentin. Yeah,
leather-bound books about Leif Davis and Meuniers. There's a couple of chapters of the Meuniers 23-24 season in the back there somewhere.
Oh God. I mean, maybe those books are best left hidden away after the season that he's having, right?
Yeah, they're next to the spiderweb covered Rashford is one of the best FPL asset books from the 21-22 season.
Absolutely love it. But yeah, great to be back on, Chaz. How are you, mate? How are you going?
Mate, I'm all right, thank you. There's a lot going on. We've got the marathon next Sunday and then an Ironman in 5 weeks. So there's a lot of preparations, which has unfortunately got in the way of my life. As opposed to keeping up with everything FPL. But let's face it, look, I was speaking to Mr. Quentin as I got on tonight. So there's the expected celebrations XC. And there's this new term called X4M, which is the expected 4 million club. And that's pretty much where I'm at the moment. So you're going to save me till last because I won't say much. Let's get to the entertainment factor first. And it being Quentin's results from game week 6. Quentin, there's a lot of sixes involved.
Yeah, mate. I was actually happy with how the game week went. McNeil sort of got in as sort of a play, a bit of a differential, and he finally delivered this week. He's looked really good, probably the last 4 weeks. So it was nice to get some points from him. And looking at Haaland, he had a couple of half chances, but nothing really too exciting. But I was happy with Diego Jota, 2 assists. I was hoping for a goal as well, but the 2 assists I'll take just because there was a lot of injury cloud around him, whether he'd start or not. So I was happy to take some points from him. And Semenyo, I actually enjoyed watching their game against Southampton. I feel like he got robbed of an assist with the rebound that went off the striker into the goal. So, but overall, I feel like my side's in a pretty good spot, and I'm possibly banking the transfer this week, depending on the early game news for Jota, whether he starts or whether he's on the bench. So that'll determine whether I roll this coming week. But yeah, I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot.
Top stuff. Love it.
Yeah, great game week, Quent. I mean, it couldn't have gone any better, I would say. I mean, other than obviously Haaland blanking and, the Liverpool clean sheet. Arsenal clean sheet, probably more than that, because obviously most people expected Arsenal to clean against Leicester. But James Justin had other things to say about that. But many people probably would have benched Robinson. You managed to play him for a 7-pointer. And loads of people sold Jota, but you kept him. And that McNeil 15-pointer, Was that a transfer in? Was it this week, or have you? How long have you had?
I've had him for 2 weeks. I transferred him in 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, wow! And look where he is. He's right up there within the amongst the points with the top scoring midfielders, isn't he? So what a great pick, Quentin. Smashed it, mate.
And I actually got out Palmer for Saka. So.
Well, you're not the only one who did something similar, mate. So don't you worry. My pain is to come soon enough. I took out 2 people actually who returned, so it's probably worse than yours. Don't you worry.
Did you see the Leicester goalkeeper? He made 13 saves, and I had a look. And Saka had, I think, like 10 shots and like 9 chances created. It was ridiculous.
Oh my god. Yeah, insane. Absolutely insane. That game obviously ended up 4-2. It could have been a completely different scoreline. Completely different.
Right. A bit of an oh my goodness. That's probably a great summary that epitomises how I've gone the first 6 weeks of the season. It was that bad that even the logos for once just didn't nearly show up. Right, so here we are. I'm just checking if it's on screen. I wish it wasn't, but here we go. The defence, yeah, terrible. And Mbumo went boom inside 38 seconds, I think it was. Semenyo, lovely cherry in what was just rough around the edges. Solanke goal. Rogers went off on the bench. I thought his celebrations were a little bit too much for my liking last week, having got it to assist. But yeah, 39 points. And a wildcard play too. Oh.
Who's this? Who was that?
Well, what else do you reckon I've been talking about the last minute, mate? Of course it's my team.
Are you bottom?
Second last.
Oh, behind Jack. Well, sorry. Above Jack, I should say. Yeah, 39 points, mate. Bit of a mare. Go back on your team. Don't be thinking you're getting away with it that quickly, Chaza. You know?
Oh,
get back on, son. 39 points on a wild card. Summarise how you feel on that one.
Mate, just short. That's like
what could have gone better? What decision did you make that was nearly a different outcome as such, and would have got you maybe more points, or was there not any? Did you just think this was the best team to go with on wildcard?
I felt it was probably the best. Maybe Havertz over Solanke, but Solanke got his goal and he's got good fixtures coming up. I can't really fault the midfield all that too much. I just feel at times this season I've got on players at the wrong time and I've probably missed their big calls.
Okay.
That's how I've probably seen it.
Yeah, do you know what? Like, as we said, the Arsenal clean sheet, you were unlucky with that. Liverpool, it was a collapse. It was an absolute shambles of a goal, let's be honest, against Wolves. Kanate, what was he doing? But I think like the likes of Mbumo, Semenyo, Saka, absolutely fine picks. Haaland, he's got a great fixture run coming up, obviously, so going without him feels like you'd then want to move him in. It's wasting a transfer. So you're a bit unlucky, mate, to be honest with you. Really unlucky. Other than really who you've picked, obviously the standout is Palmer, isn't it? If you get him and your game week looks completely different. But yeah, mate, keep going. Don't lose faith, mate. Don't lose faith. We've got another game week coming up and plenty of more game weeks in the season.
Jeez, that's very encouraging, mate. That's like someone telling me about after coming out of the beach water after a swim in a triathlon race.
No worries, mate. Got to keep your balls warm, haven't you? But yeah, on to Mikey.
Speaking about someone going from balls warm into balls deep, well, this guy didn't really go deep at all. Yet again, 39 points. That is the Reverend. Had Mbumo, had Rogers, Havertz, and yeah, you know what? That's about it. So I'm not going to say much. Yeah. He can skedaddle.
Same Reidy, score on a team. Yeah.
Let's check yours. 60 points. Talk us through it. Walk your way through
60 all out. Not a bad game week as such. Got a green arrow, so can't complain in the grand scheme of things. That guy, Saliba, just keeps failing me again and again. Just goes to show, you pick the other guy in FPL and it ends up being the wrong one. But Guardiola finally returning for me That was sweet. I'm not going to lie. I've held on to him since I wildcarded. Would have been, it was tempting to get him out. Everyone's gone Lewis, obviously the cheaper option. But yeah, he got me the 9 points, so happy with that. Saka Cap. I wasn't keen on Cap this week. Well, last week I just wasn't quite sure who to go for. Now, here's the story. So I moved out Jota for Mbumo. Point difference. These are free transfers, by the way. I didn't hit or anything. Point difference, and I also then took out Palmer for Semenyo. So what are we talking? 16 points v what? 33?
Yeah.
So, well, not 33, but oh yeah, it is. No, it is. So there's like a big swing of 20 odd points, right? So that was my mistake. I took out Palmer for Semenyo, and Palmer banged. Would I have captain Palmer? Probably not, but that's just the way it is. Rodgers and Watkins doing the bits. And there we go, 60 points for me this week, all out.
Love it. Fantastic score, Reidy. And I can see that you're on quite a pleasing start to the season. How do you assess your first 6 weeks?
It's gone okay. I mean, no Haaland and no Salah. I think people generally have done okay with it because Haaland's blanked against Newcastle. He did get his goal against Arsenal, which is the fixture many people said would be the toughest one, but he still managed to score. But generally, without having those 2 players, I've not done too bad. I'm back inside, the top million, which I know is, by the way, nothing impressive. But I was 154k in game week 2 before my wildcard absolutely crashed me down back to reality in 1-2 millions. So to get back down and get a green arrow it's been quite nice. Yeah, enjoying it.
I think you're actually pretty unlucky with the Luis Diaz. Just watching their game, it was kind of Salah and the odd sort of chance from Jota, but Diaz kind of didn't really be involved like he has been the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, and he's been one of my picks as well. I've had him since the beginning of the season, and when I wildcarded, I was like, I don't really want to take him out. I want to keep him, and I'm glad I did because obviously game week 4. Sorry, not game week 4, game week 5. He's got 16 points, and then he's scored big before that as well. So yeah, you could probably say unlucky, but then again, we didn't look great these Wolves, did we, Quentin? I mean, I don't know if you've seen the highlights. I watched the game live. We didn't look great. There was just a little bit something missing, and then the error with the Wolves goal. So I need to start killing these teams that are really bad defensively. We need to start killing them off early as possible in games because you always got that chance. You're always going to try and score against anyone, really. Never mind if it's the big opposition.
Yeah, it was a weird game because Liverpool dominated, but they didn't really create a big amount of clear-cut chances. They were kind of half chances.
Yeah.
Whereas
the biggest one was the Solanke missed as well. I mean,
yeah.
But
even Palmer, like a lot of people are kind of disappointed with Palmer, but I feel like it was an isolated haul in terms of the way Brighton defended. They defended like Spurs did against Chelsea that time when they had 9 players, where they just sat everyone on the halfway line and there was non-negotiable. They didn't sit deep at all. And it was just a through ball through and Palmer just used his speed. And, I don't think the players that were sitting back have any speed whatsoever. Like Nicholas Jackson made them look like they were stuck in the mud. And for me, Nicholas Jackson isn't what you call a Usain Bolt fast striker. He's, moderately fast. But yeah, I feel like this week against Forest, a lot of people are going to sort of go to that Palmer. And I feel like Forest defensively aren't going to do what Brighton did. And it's going to probably be a little bit harder.
That's it. You'd expect that. And I mean, I think Palmer's, both his hauls have come against teams who've been really poor defensively. Their shape has been really bad. And it's just give him that opportunity to just, he's a good player. And, not saying that he can't do it against the big teams because he's proved last season he can, or against better defensively teams. But if you're going to set up in such a way that you're going to allow loads of space and loads of time for people, it's only going to end with one result. So yeah, you'd expect that from Forest this week. I mean, now I've sold him, certainly hoping that if he gets 2 back-to-back calls, that'll be an absolute nightmare for me, Quentin. But we shall see.
Yeah. And like who was marking Saka in the Leicester game, we're going to be seeing the same person mark Semenyo this week. I'm licking my lips. This could be a bloodbath.
Yeah, hopefully that's the case, mate, because obviously Semenyo this week, this seems like his last good fixture before Bournemouth get some tough ones, don't they? Tough runs. So it'd be nice to get another little gift from Semenyo.
And even Saka this week, like we saw Southampton, the way they defended out wide against Semenyo, I would say Saka's probably a bit more accomplished. So I feel like that could be a bloodbath as well. So a lot of people, I feel like the swinger points for the people that kept Palmer and the people that got him out for Saka and Semenyo, I think this week's going to turn the other way.
Ooh, interesting take, Chaz?
Yes, indeed on that one. I've got a question in regard to wildcards just after we take a brief check in the Women's League. Fair play to Alicia holding a 12-point lead. Also one of our favourites from Australia and a big content creator, Emira, sitting in third at the moment. Reidy and Quentin, I'll start off with you, Q. We've seen a trend in recent times where we believe managers who went to play their wild card in certain weeks, the time where they probably could have held on to it on that respective week, that side performed better than as opposed to activating a chip. Do you feel that us managers are being too impatient this season and influenced a little too much by what the majority of other managers are doing?
I feel like a lot of people, they've done their wild card. It didn't work out the week after the wild card. But for me, you're probably setting that wild card up for 4 to 5 weeks. So you kind of got to look at it as a long-term type thing, like mid to long-term. Like myself, when I did my wild card, I didn't score that good. I think if I had kept my original side, I would have just outscored them. But then the following week, I got a massive score, and then I got an all right score this week. So I kind of look at it, you can't be knee-jerk the next week. Kind of go, well, I had a plan when I did the wild card. Let's see how it looks after 4 to 5 weeks, depending on whether they did plan, whether they just got, I guess, FOMO and wanted to get certain plays in for 1 week. But I think most people plan for 4 weeks. So I feel like the best thing to do is look at it after those 4 weeks and determine whether it was the right move or not.
Got a take on that, Reidy?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with what Quentin's saying. I mean, I think ultimately you want to set up for those few weeks, but you'd be lying if you didn't say, "Oh, I want to smash that wild card." Obviously, that week you want it to go great, don't you? As well, and it doesn't always pan out like that. We've probably seen people who've wildcarded this season have not maybe got the score they wanted of the week they've wildcarded, but that should then effectively kind of come back around in the game weeks to follow. And yeah, that's the whole point. If you are planning it, you want to be able to set up for the future game weeks and future fixtures to come. Things are going to always change the landscape. Player injuries. In terms of price rises, things like that. How many transfers you've got, they're always going to be a factor. But ultimately, when you use that wildcard, it should fix a lot of issues and get you ready.
That's fair. Before we get to your fixtures, which you've got on standby at the moment, Reidy, quick check on the public league. Looking relatively competitive up the top here with Seamus leading by 13 points over Rhino Croslin, followed by Stephen Connor Lee. Reidy, in terms of your assignments over 20 different sides this weekend, what are some beautiful standout fixtures we've got?
Standout fixtures. Yeah, I mean, there's some pretty good fixtures this week, as you can see. I mean, everyone's licking their lips, aren't they, at the likes of Arsenal v Southampton at home and Man City v Fulham. I'm sure captaincy debate is going to be interesting as well this week. Many people who've got Saka and Haaland, who do they prefer? But yeah, for me, if I had to pick a standout fixture, I think it would be the Villa Man United game. I think it's quite interesting from FPL and from a normal football perspective. I think that Villa obviously have gone and beat Bayern Munich the other night in the Champions League, which is some achievement. John Duran's on fire, isn't he? What a player. So Man United, Ten Hag not under fire, I guess. I mean, he keeps saying stick to the plan, doesn't he? But how long is this plan going to last? That's the problem. So yeah, United have come back off the back of a draw in the Europa League against Porto. They're not sitting too well in the league. But also, as I say, FPL wise, we've got Watkins, we've got Rodgers. Some people have got potentially still got, might even have Rashford or, a couple of United players in there. Bruno Fernandes's red card. Thankfully, for FPL managers have been rescinded. Yeah, he's been red carded obviously in Europe as well. Whether that one will get rescinded, I don't know. But the one in the league has, so he'll be back for them, which is, as poor as United have been, that's huge for them because he is one of their better players or best players. So that for me is a fixture I'm looking forward to. Yeah, so we'll see.
Beautiful, Quentin. Have you got one?
I'll just quickly touch on United. I think it's going to be a massive fixture, and a lot of people have written United off after the weekend's result against Spurs, but I watched that game. Rashford actually looked really good. Could have easily had 3 returns in the first 15 minutes in that game, and then obviously the red card, they went to shit. So I feel like there could be a bit of a potential for some future scouting for FPL assets because I feel like Rashford, again, during Europe, 2 returns in the first half before he got rested. Apparently rested. He said his response was, Garnacho need to play. That's all he said and then repeated it. So strange things. But a standout fixture for me is actually the Man City versus Fulham. We saw City get nullified by Newcastle's defense, with Newcastle's defense being absolutely horrible most of the season, and they actually finally turned up in a fixture that a lot of people were hoping for the Haaland haul. So I actually think this could be a bit of a get-back game for City. We've seen them do it last year when they had sort of a bit of a pour out and they come out the next week and just put whatever team it was to the sword. So I feel like there's a bit of interest around, obviously, Haaland captaincy versus Saka captaincy, and then possibly the addition of Foden starting, because when he come on the pitch against Newcastle, he was almost the difference maker in the end there and easily could have got them over the line. So if he's starting, there might be a few panic trades or knee-jerk trades to get him in before deadline if we see any news that he's going to be starting. So I feel like that's going to be a very interesting fixture.
Okay. Yeah, geez. Cracking choices from the pair of you, and both have a big weight of significance. My one is going to be Chelsea, Nottingham Forest for a couple of reasons. One, I'd like to see how Forest go defensively. Once again, big top 6 venue. They managed to accomplish it at Anfield. How are they going to do it at the Bridge? I want to see how Chris Wood goes in this game. Chelsea, back at home, they managed to put 4 past Brighton, but also is Cole Palmer able to back up his outing from last week? And statistically, Forest are a better side from a defensive aspect by a big proportion as opposed to last season. So that's why I am very much looking forward to Stamford Bridge. It's going to be such an intriguing game. It's the last weekend too, before the international break as well. Reidy, talk us through the transfer trends. It's just mind-boggling to see how the entire equation has flipped in recent times, especially with Pedro being the most transferred out, Salah being the big compromise as well.
Yeah,
does that come as a surprise?
I mean, to tie in with the fixtures that were there before I go to to have a look at the transfer trends and so on. I mean, I think we're looking at João Pedro. First off the bat, really, he's got a big injury, which is what we know now. He is going to be out for some weeks. He did get a price drop also recently. So he's someone that, you would definitely expect him to be moved out and so on. But I think given the fixtures, there are so many good fixtures this week. A lot of what would you say, kind of like favourable fixtures for bigger teams anyway, that's for sure. The likes of Liverpool, Salah being sold, is that basically a similar thing to what we were finding with Palmer? People taking Palmer out, putting Saka in. people are now taking Salah out, putting Palmer in, that sort of thing. So I think that's where the swings are kind of coming in. I think ultimately, though, if people didn't jump on Saka last week, that could also be another thing that's happening. People taking out Salah to have Saka. So, as I say, I think most of them, you would say. I mean, even Quentin's guys on there, Dwight McNeil, people are, influx of managers are going for this guy. McMessy, I like to call him. But yeah, I would say the transfers out are most certainly, apart from maybe Salah, other than what we've said, to kind of give you've got the money then to downgrade to a Palmer or to a Saka. Interestingly enough, though, Chaza, on that list, where is Saka? He's right down here. Right down here. So it almost seems like people have gone cold because, well, that wasn't a pun, but people have gone cold because they're going to obviously Cole Palmer. Yeah. So there you have it, mate. That's what I think. I mean, I think they make sense generally, but I think there's a lot of bandwagon moves there. The likes of Palmer because of his haul, and Bumo's been great this season, hasn't he? He seems to be scoring every week. McNeil with his hauls. Jackson actually is an interesting one. I know you mentioned about Chelsea and Forest being good defensively. What's your thoughts on Jackson so far this season? Both of you, I guess.
Q, I'll start with you because I'll probably refer to the Instagram reels I posted of him away at West Ham where he was trying to recreate the Jackson 5. No, not Jackson 5. Michael Jackson dance moves.
I actually think he's been really good. He's kind of the evolution of Jackson this season is what people were hoping for Núñez last season, where you see the first season in the league, he had a lot of chances created, wasn't quite finishing as much as we'd liked, but this season he seems to have a lot of confidence, and we've seen with a lot of players in the Premier League when they have confidence, they can just keep banging goals in. And I feel like he's a very interesting player because a lot of people are going Solanke up top there. So I actually think Nicholas Jackson is a nice sort of differential up top there because I think there's Havertz, Solanke, and Nicholas Jackson are the three players people are looking at. So I actually think you can get him in and actually get some decent gains because he's very much evolved in that Chelsea attack and seems to be playing decent amounts of minutes. Like in Kunku, still only getting the 15 minutes off the bench in the league. So I feel like the way he's playing, there's a lot of potential there for some decent, consistent FPL returns this year.
I think that's actually a great little summary. I'll let you go, Chaza, as well next, before I go on to anything else. And yeah, what's your thoughts on him, Chaza, on Jackson? Given what Quentin said.
Well, pretty much second to what Quentin's saying. I think it's been fantastic to see his improvement as an asset. I think his system probably suits him a bit more better too. I'm not sure how involved he was last season, but it's clear that Maresca really likes him, and I think that's a big favour towards him getting minutes regularly, along with other commitments such as Chelsea playing Conference League too.
Yeah. I do think that we've seen glimpses last season. I think obviously is not his temperament so much, but his vulnerability and his naivety kind of to pick up a lot of yellow cards. I mean, he had suspensions last season. He's only picked up 2 this season. So, I mean, you could say that's not bad, but that is nearly 50% of the games that have been played. But, at this stage last season, it might have been 3-4 cards. So I think, I'm thinking in terms of how he's playing for Chelsea, signed a new contract. He looks like a goal scorer more so this year. I think he's definitely a good pick. And that sort of segue that you were saying about Solanke now, obviously not got many points on the board. We've seen he got injured, didn't he, early on in the season. He's come back, though, against Brentford, and he scored. Against United, he scored. Are we now going to be calling him Dominic Mitchell? Or what's going on, boys? What's going on? He's now called Dominic Solanke Mitchell.
Must have got married overnight, got the hyphenated last name.
Yeah. I mean, is that something we're going to see on the shirt? Are the commentators going to be calling him this now? Like, I don't know. But I wasn't expecting to see that today in FPL. But yeah, in a comparison point of view, back to being sensible, there's a 0.3 difference between Solanke and Jackson. Who do you think is the better pick and why? And obviously, you can take fixtures into consideration as well.
I think probably Solanke. Solanke, I think he's kind of bubbling, ready to erupt. He's getting lots of chances, good quality chances, but it's just not kind of getting the FPL points. And those are the type of plays you're probably looking at, because a lot of people aren't going to be getting on Solanke because he hasn't been getting the consistent points. But I feel like this week is probably a really good opportunity to get ahead of the curve and get on him. So I think Dominic Mitchell, is a decent pick. And I think that Spurs have actually looked really good. Johnson and Solanke's link up seem to be getting ready to explode. And we've seen Brennan Johnson, 5 returns, 5 weeks. So I feel like it could possibly be Solanke's turn over this next sort of run of fixtures. And I think Chelsea's fixtures okay this week. Then they've got a couple of tough ones coming up. And, Man United, a lot of people say is not a hard fixture, but I wouldn't say it's the best fixture. So, yeah, I think I'd prefer Spurs.
Yeah. And you, Chaz, would you pick Solanke as well?
I'd probably, because of his fixture run ahead.
And the price, is the price a factor for you, boys? Do you think that 0.3 matters? Or
I think there's a lot of good options within that price bracket, and you can't really discount Kai Havertz from Arsenal as well, even though they're not part of it, 2 players in comparison. I'm glad you're actually touching on Spurs assets, because it's one of our discussion points. So we'll keep going for what it is. I think for now it'll be Solanke, because I think he's got the better fixtures in the medium to long term.
Yeah. From a fixture point of view, I definitely agree with you both. I think I don't think the price matters too much, because I still think Jackson's capable of getting goals, even in maybe some of these what you would call tougher fixtures. I mean, we've seen Newcastle do well against City, but is that just going to be against City? And then, this week they go back to being terrible again. I'm still not 100% convinced by them as of yet. And Chelsea, believe it or not, I mean, I looked at the league table today and I saw that they're 4th at the minute. They're right up there this season. And in terms of games and stuff like that, there's somewhere they've had the easier run. The Brighton, obviously, defensively, we've mentioned. The Wolves, defensively, terrible. But I think at some point Chelsea could be taken seriously for what they are. And, we said at the beginning of the season they've got a crazy amount of players. It feels like players like Sancho's coming into the fold now, playing well for them. They've got Palmer there who pulls the strings. Jackson's looking good. So they're just a few thingies away from maybe getting there and actually looking like, do we want to pick more than just Palmer or Palmer and Jackson, potentially. So, yeah, great discussion on that one. But Spurs, Chaza, you said you wanted to maybe discuss that.
I want to talk about one player, and I just feel, because you're talking about his last 5 games, and I think a big credit to as well, it's not because he's converting his chances, but probably converting away his social media. That's played a big factor, deactivating his account, and ever since then, he's just gone from, he's just gone bang.
You're referring to, I was about to say, you're referring to Brennan Johnson, the mystery man, who I didn't have a clue.
Mystery man, yeah, I reckon he's a really good option. I thought he was awesome away at Old Trafford, especially.
Yeah, I mean, he's looked great, hasn't he? He's, I think with Spurs, the one thing that we can say is they've looked really good attacking wise. And I think at the beginning of the season, they had probably, I don't want to say a tough fixture run, but, if we look at, they started, I think, with an easy first 2 fixtures, didn't they? Game week 1, they had Leicester. They didn't manage to get that win, even though they were good attacking wise. Then they played Everton. There was a couple of mistakes from Pickford, for the Son Hall and so on, but they still won 4-0. And then, Newcastle 2-1. They were okay in that one. But generally, I'd say attacking wise, they have looked quite good. And Brennan Johnson in particular seems to be kind of making that role his own. Kulusevski, I think, has been playing part of a midfield 3, am I right in saying? So, I think that's give Brennan Johnson the license to go all-out attack, hasn't it? Are you any of you considering maybe getting him or?
I think.
Don't all go at once. Go on.
No, I was just gonna say, mine's gonna come down to whether Jota's starting on the weekend. If he's not, I'm looking at possibly going Brennan Johnson over like an Imbermo. Just with looking at Johnson, his last 2 fixtures in all competitions, he's averaged 3 shots, 1 post hit, 1 goal. And then the fixture before that, he got the goal and got a big chance missed and had the 6 shots. So I feel like he's just playing consistent football now. I actually saw parts of this, what we're seeing now, early on in the season, but just wasn't consistent. He would maybe spend 30, 40 minutes looking great and then just disappear. So I feel like Andrew's got him to play consistent football now, and I feel like this is the new norm, is what you're going to be seeing from Brendan Johnson. And I love him as a player. I call him the Messi from Wales. He is an absolute freak.
Yeah, I mean, from a price point, if you want to switch, obviously you were talking about Jota there, Quentin. It's easy to kind of switch, isn't it, and go there. I think Johnson's 6. Is he 6.6 now, around that price? And like your Jotas are 7.5s. And yeah, for you, Chaza, I mean, obviously we spoke about the beginning of the pod about your game week not being the best, wildcarding. Are you just sitting tight now, or do you want to kind of save those transfers for a little bit later on, or are you gonna? Okay, there's a player there that looks really good at the minute. I want to jump on them. I don't want to wait.
It's a good question. I feel the week after you play a wild card, it's worth giving everyone a double chance, because why did you select them in the first place? So it's probably rolling them for now and maybe make one change next week. However, 5 free transfers, it does, I feel, describe as a luxury in the game, because constantly the trend just keeps changing. And I feel managers need to respond to it efficiently, as opposed to probably waiting 1 month and banking up all those transfers.
Yeah, it is difficult, because I mean, if you've got 3 transfers, you're going, okay, great, I can use one of them. I've still got 2 for the following week. I'll have 3 again. But what I've found this season is, once you start rolling those, and I got to 4 thinking I was going to get to 5, there's something always there. There's a player with a better fixture, or there's price rises might be affecting something. So you're going, okay, well, I've got these transfers. Why am I saving them if I've got more than 2, which we were limited to last year, obviously? And so yeah, I think that's a great answer. In terms of you saying a wild card, you pick that wild card, you pick that team because that's what you think is going to be the best for X amount of weeks. But obviously, the landscape of things can sometimes change a bit, and we do feel like, I think this season especially, we feel like we might be missing out on players. But that stubbornness of rolling, okay, I can get up to 3, I can get up to 4, might be something that'll cost people. You know what I mean? So it's just something to maybe be mindful of, really, in a way, because, not forgetting, which I did forget, we've got a mystery chip coming in January. Who knows what that's going to be? That could completely throw everything up in the air. So, yeah. Great topic, boys. Great discussion point, I think.
And also with Brendan Johnson, how good did Brighton deal with speed? And what is his biggest asset, Johnson? Speed.
Exactly. He's Mr. Keanu Reeves himself, isn't he? You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, Brighton obviously are going to want to shut up shop after last week's performance against Chelsea. I don't think we'll see the same type of joy from Spurs, but given how good they are attacking wise, and as you said, the Flash will be ready to cause some havoc, I'm sure. Go ahead, Chaz.
Yeah. I wanted to touch base. Brendan Johnson, this complements the next point. What's the go with budget midfielders this year? Because they just seem to be the pick of a bunch right now. Along with Brennan, you got Mbumo, you got Semenyo. What does this allow us for our teams? Does this mean we can probably afford potentially more premiums, or maybe have a really good functional third striker?
You didn't. You missed out on the Merseyside Messi in McNeil. But
well, Red's not on, mate. I was trying to get away with it.
No, I did mention him in the players in Quentin as well. Also, he's one of the highest transfers in, mate.
Quentin's been busy reading his books in the background. He hasn't been paying any attention.
Mate, I think it's the mahogany. It's getting to me. I'm starting to get lightheaded in
Need to
here.
stop
But
sniffing books, Quentin. All right. What we told you.
Yeah, I actually think this is the season. I think I mentioned this on our first pod I did with you guys, that this season I feel like trying to find these mid-price players and rotating from player to player. Like you've seen what this week is Semenyo's last good fixture for a little bit, then finding the next midfielder to jump to. And, Rodgers has been a bit of a mainstay, but I feel like the way we're going to get ahead this season is anywhere from the 5.5 to about the 7 million players, rotating from player to player depending on their game runs and form is going to help you get ahead rather than, picking the best plays in the game. I feel like this is like, they call it in the trenches. You're going to be in the trenches finding these, enablers that are going to be scoring consistent points. And I feel like this year it's more important than previous seasons with the amount of options that you have.
Yeah. No, that's a great take, Quentin. And I think obviously that I say obviously, I use that word a lot, probably too much, but the thing for this season is, do you go Haaland? Do you not? He's 15 mil. He's 15.3. In fact, now, that's a thing of many managers have looked at their team without Haaland and went, wow, this is a team, like, this team is great. It's amazing. No Haaland, I can get this guy, whatever. But it's hard to ignore someone who's had such a great start to the season. We know he's capable of scoring against anyone. And we know City are probably, the best team in the league. So, yeah, I mean, that's something whereby these enablers, as you've touched upon, are probably going to be key if you have one of Salah, or Haaland. If you have one or both, you're going to have to, get some enablers in there, whether you like it or not. It's just the way it is. But yeah, I love this from Gary Books.
Books Anonymous. All right, 42 minutes in. We haven't even said hello to everyone. I thoroughly apologise. Thank you all for your patience. Gary, thanks as always for stopping by. Look, Carl and Quentin, I don't know how Quentin, what can this man not do? He can comment, but also be on a live broadcast at the same time. It's a tremendous effort. There was we also had Miriam who's just popped by. So Miriam, good afternoon to you wherever you may be. But we also got an interesting comment. Praz made a good point on Twitter. There'll probably be a random player to pick up an injury. Rested this game week so they can have a 2-week rest without any international commitments. Are you buying into this, Reidy?
No, I can see why this sort of thing's put out, because it seems to happen lately, doesn't it? Where we get players who get this mysterious injury. We had it with Cole Palmer, we had it with Watkins, with the England sort of stuff. So yeah, there probably will be someone. Who it is, who knows? Who knows? It's going to be. I mean, if we look at the fixtures after the international break, Spurs have got the early kickoff against West Ham. Maddison's not even been included, actually. That's another thing to mention. I think he often comes out on social media or when he does his interviews, yeah, I've still got a chance of the England call-up, and then just doesn't get it. So, and he's actually been good lately as well. But other than that, I mean, I think who else would we see that would Liverpool, Chelsea players potentially?
Maybe a Diaz, possibly could.
That's the biggest fixture to come up after the international break in game week 8, Liverpool v Chelsea. So possibly, but it's the norm now. It's become the norm where if there's friendlies or if there's not important games or if clubs want to kind of mask something, they'll go, oh, right, they've got the ghost injury and they're out. So yeah.
Most weeks I would be worried, but I really can't see any team that's any of the important sides in FPL that are going to be resting players, because Liverpool got the perfect rotation at the moment. Like, there's weeks they're not even playing Núñez or Gakpo. Then they just put them on the field, start them. And then we saw what Jota got, barely any minutes. Salah's been rested. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen to anyone that's going to be of note. I feel like there could be maybe like a Havertz or maybe like a Trossard or a Martinelli might get rested, but I couldn't see it being anyone sort of key.
Yeah, we shall see. I mean, we always get too long to ponder and sit around twiddling our thumbs, don't we, during the international break? But yeah, that's just the way it is, I guess. Twiddling those thumbs. Well, not for you though, Chaza. I mean, you just go off doing Ironmans, mate. You can do that. Me and Quentin will just eating our sausage rolls, mate.
As close as enough it can be twiddling your thumbs. You know those TT bikes where you have that stance a long period of time, you just sort of got your thumbs on the brakes? It's kind of close enough to that.
Yeah, that must be.
I feel like we've had too many international breaks to start the season. Is it just me that it feels like we've had one like every 2 weeks?
Quentin, I'm hating this season already.
I mean, we got one after game week. Was it 3? Was it?
Yeah, that was too short.
Game week 3, we got an international break. Now we've had game week 4, game week 5, game week 6. We're like game week 7, so that's 4 game weeks. Not too bad. And then we'll get another one. So I don't know. 2 within 7 game weeks does feel like a lot, especially I suppose that the international breaks are 2 weeks long. So that's 4 weeks almost of it. Yeah, they need to bin the problem is they'll never bin the friendlies. They'll always just do this, and it's boring. Right. It's horseshit, but what can you do?
That's correct. Before we preview our sides at Game Week 7, I'll just come across you both. Quentin, did you have any discussion points that we've not mentioned or a topic we haven't yet in terms of you would like to discuss?
No, actually, I feel like my one was going to be the enablers because I'm pretty big on finding the next thing. So, and using my fantasy attacking upside formula, it's actually
Ipswich. I think we should talk about Ipswich because isn't Leif Davis on the top of your charts?
Yeah, he was to start the season, and last week he had 9 chances created, I think, and 3 big chances created. So, and we like to call him on our pod Sexy Legs Delap up top there.
Delap had a good game, 12 points. Mate, is he worth considering now?
I actually think he's probably the best 5.5 striker at the moment to get into your side. I like him over Jimenez, and their fixture run's not too bad still. They've got some good fixtures. So I think Delap, he's not getting a lot of chances, but he's usually scoring at least 50% of them. And I think on the weekend he had 2 goals, and I think he had 1 really close chance going as well. So I think between Sexy Legs and Leif Davis, I think we might see some goals.
So I think what that tells us is that the Muniz trade has finally come to a halt. Wheels have fell off. There's no more coal left in the fire. And now it's someone's something about, what was it? Someone on your lap?
Davis. Delap, yeah. Have you seen the bloke's legs, though? They're massive.
No, I mean, I know we all talk about eye test a little bit sometimes,
Leg test, mate.
But that's taking it to the, Quentin's literally everything. He doesn't miss a thing, do you, mate?
But speaking of our formula that I mentioned, going over last week, even though Palmer had the most amount of goals, he finished on 17.5, but coming in second was Saka on 17.0. So that goes to show how big of a game Saka had without returns.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Arsenal can win like a 4-0 or 4-1 or 5, whatever. It can be any scoreline for them that's a high scoreline, and sometimes you find that the goals are shared and stuff. So that's the difference, I suppose. Whereas you've got one guy did it last season, he's doing it this season to an extent, and people are going, okay, I don't care that he's now 10.6 or whatever, I'm getting him. You know what I mean? Because they're scared of missing out of what he's capable of. So, yeah, but I think that does come at a cost. I think that where you are always going for a player that costs that much, you're having to compromise. So I think ultimately people have to be aware of that, because if he blanks this week, what's the next flavour of the game week going to be for game week 8? I won't tell you what I've done yet, because I'll obviously reveal a little bit later or soon. But yeah, I think that's it.
That's it.
On the old Patreon, yeah, on the old Delap Patreon, get the legs out, all that.
Reidy, I've got something to reveal. It's not actually my team. This occurred 2 minutes ago.
Oh,
it's back. It's made a return. Permission denied.
You've been kicked out again. Oh, you just need to log in, mate. It's fine. You're fine.
Who would you guys pick as your second attacking asset from Arsenal? Is it a Trossard, a Martinelli, or a Havertz?
Havertz. Not by much.
I think it's an interesting question, but I think it's based on, do you need a third striker spot more than you need that midfield? So, i.e., if you've got all the midfielders, like you've got an Mbeumo, a Rodgers, I think have you got all four of those? Mbeumo, Rodgers, Semenyo, and Saka, or not, Quentin? Who are you missing
I've
out
got
on?
Jota as that thing instead of Mbeumo.
Okay. So you could potentially go a Jota to a Trossard or a Martinelli, or you could get Havertz. Oh, I think that's a really tough one. That obviously Odegaard's not back, is he? Trossard's been decent lately. That is a flip of a coin. I'm going to hand it over to the Arsenal fan. Come on, Chaza, have you got some words of wisdom?
I think Trossard has actually put up some really good numbers to kickstart the season, and it's worthy of being a second attacking option. However, the factor that will always be against him, I think, is his certainty of starts, because Arteta loves to rotate his front line and always keeping Saka in it. So I'll go Saka, and I'll probably go Kai Havertz because his form at the Emirates has been really good to start the season, having returned in every outing. And then wouldn't be far behind is Trossard, then Martinelli, and then the rest are there for celebrations purposes.
There we have it. Mr. H, got to go for looks like Havertz. The jury's. Did you say Havertz?
I said Havertz, yeah, Mr. H. I've not heard anyone call that.
Mr. H. Yeah. Goodbye, Mr. A. Right, go on.
Not
Next one. Next one is you said talking about interesting, like who to get this week in Arsenal players and stuff like that. Do we think that the attack is better than the defense to go for? In terms of what we thought is clean sheets. Anyone who maybe wildcarded last week, but there was a lot of game week 6 wildcarders. They'll have gone Arsenal defense. There was a little bit of doubt about Raya, wasn't there? Then we heard, he is going to start. So maybe people did go for the double defense. What would you think is the best position to be in at the minute? Double attack or double defense?
I would say the attack. I feel like the defense, it's frustrating because you watch the game on the weekend. They didn't give up a lot of chances, but all it took was 2 really good chances they conceded. But then you get the attack with Havertz and Trossard where they always look like scoring goals, but there's times this season where they've looked like they're going to concede goals, and I'd rather be on the other end of hoping for goals rather than hoping for a clean sheet.
Fair play. Are you? Do you agree with that, Chaz, or are you the opposite?
It's funny because there's so many narratives that change week on week. This could yet again be another one of them. I still feel they're the best side statistically from a defensive perspective, but even going with the harder fixtures they've got after their Leicester and Bournemouth, I'd still feel the defenders that you'd have because they can genuinely score against anyone. In addition to complement that, how many times has Gabriel scored against the top side? A lot now. So I just feel...
You almost scored last week.
Yeah, I don't know. I still think defense overall, but right now the trend is attack. I don't think there's much difference.
But is the conversation that defense really this season, there's no team that's consistently getting clean sheet points, why I think a lot of people need to maybe start looking at getting attacking upside fullbacks instead of banking on clean sheets, because Arsenal are probably the only side, maybe Liverpool, that are getting clean sheets this year.
Yeah, that's it. I think ultimately players like Pedro Porro, we've got Lewis there, who a lot of people have kind of got. He's playing in that middle of the field for City. Trent is another one who is a popular pick this season. He's the type of player, if you're going to go for a more expensive defender, that you want probably more consistent hauls from, as well as that, you want a clean sheet plus an assist or plus a goal, whatever it might be. So yeah, it does feel like just banking on 6 points, because the bonus system's changed, where it's more favourable for attackers now. It seems that way anyway. So yeah, what are you really getting out of the likes of, one of the, the centre backs and things like that? Full backs surely is the better way to go, right?
plenty to still ponder about. Reidy, I think it might be time to show our Gameweek 7 size. Are you gone more double defence or double attack on the Arsenal front?
For me, it is double attack this week. I've got Saka and Havertz. I mean, I wildcard, I should say, in game week 3. So, it was a bit earlier in the season. But the reason I did that is so I had 3 free transfers. I had the Arsenal ready for the up-and-coming game weeks for the good fixtures. So unfortunately, I did go for Saliba, which wasn't a great pick in that sense. But, having Saka, having Havertz, I'm pretty set. I'm set up pretty well. My moves that I did make. Now, this is something I've not been great at this season, and that is the price changes. Because Guardiola went down for me before he got his 9-pointer. This is so we went to 5.9. The plan was always to get Haaland back in game week 7, and I went last night. I went a bit early. Now, bear in mind, I've had Luis Diaz since game week 1, so he went up last night, which he wasn't predicted to do so. So I'd have got an extra 0.1 from Diaz, right? I'd have got 0.1 back for Guardiola or João Pedro because I still had João Pedro. It wasn't to be. I made the moves early. So I brought in Lewis, I brought in Winks, and I brought in Haaland. That was for Guardiola, Luis Diaz, and João Pedro. So yeah, they're my moves for this week. Haaland captain. I think the team set up pretty well. I'm pretty happy with it. Got a decent bench for now. Yeah. That's pretty much it. That's me for game week 7, boys.
Love it.
I think you're going to be flying this week, Reidy. I'm actually a little bit jealous.
Hope so. Yeah, hope so. But you know what? I feel like, boys, that a lot of these players, i.e. your Rodgers, your Semenyos, Saka's, Boumos, Lewis, Trent, a lot of people have got them. And they've got one of, maybe even 2 of the front 3. So I feel like it's very fine margins this week on terms of points. And it's going to be the difference of what, if you've got 2-3 different players from your rivals or mini leagues or your mates, whatever it might be, that's going to be the difference in the terms of the points. Also, captain can be a factor as well, because as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, people are going to be going, you know what? Arsenal got the better fixture. Which, to be fair, on paper they have, and given what we said before about their attacking and who would you rather go with, attack or defence, Saka captain is a bit tempting, but I do feel like after what Haaland did last season to Fulham, people they're just not going to be able to resist.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of face-off for points this week. So you're going to have Saka versus Palmer. You're going to have Mbeumo versus the likes of McNeil, Johnson, maybe a Diaz. Then you're going to have Semenyo against McNeil. And then you got up top, you got Havertz versus Solanke this week. And then the captaincy, Haaland versus Saka. So I feel like there's going to be some swings. And I feel like it could be ugly if you're not on the right side of that swing this week. So I feel like the potential for points there are massive. And the potential for, losing a lot of rank this week is definitely there as well.
Yeah, and not forgetting a certain FPL legend, Mr. Mohamed Salah, who, his ownership's high as such, but, you don't see many teams with Salah and Haaland knocking about anyway, especially on Twitter or X or whatever. So that's another thing that people go for the early kickoff, and Captain Salah, who's in great form, scored last weekend, scored in midweek against Bologna in the Champions League. So, yeah, I think you're spot on, Quentin.
Yeah. It could be brutal this game week, and Twitter could be just burning houses.
Exactly, mate. Dingo breakfast for everyone on Monday. You know what I mean?
Exactly. You're either going to be tucking into a nice, ribeye steak, or you're going to be having a dingo's breakfast, a drink of water, a bit of bread, and a good look around.
Yeah. I mean, listen, as long as you stick to the plan, apparently that's the best thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's the plan's always the best plan until the plan isn't working.
Oh God! Right, boys. I'll be back shortly.
No worries.
See you, AJ.
Right. See ya. From Backstreet Boys. Oh, okay. Now, last episode I kind of just kicked him out. So, you got a work meeting. Would you like to show your team? He just booted himself. I didn't know how to mentally recover from that. Quentin, you are more than certainly up next. How are you feeling heading into game week 7?
I'm actually quietly optimistic. I actually think it could be a good week for me. As you can see, I've got a few differentials there. So Jota at the moment will stay until I sort of get some team news, which we've been consistently been getting team leaks about 2 hours before kickoff. So
Wait,
hopefully if he's...
hang on. That's last week's. This one, that looks a bit better.
Yeah, so I think there's some differentials in that side with McNeil, Semenyo, Diego Jota. I feel like Pedro Porro is still a little bit of a differential. A lot of people sort of moved on their Spurs assets. So I'm confident going into this week. And if Diego Jota obviously does get benched and the news does come out early, I'm probably going to move him to a Brennan Johnson and in Burmo, or maybe I might go back to my kink of Rashford. So I feel like that spot's going to be probably another differential spot this week, whether Diego Jota stays or not. So I feel like this week there's a lot of potential for points. Everton, I feel like the Newcastle game is going to be a lot more open than it was against City, just because Everton are open at the back, which will probably push Newcastle to sort of play more attacking compared to when they played City, which then probably opens it up for the counter for Everton with the likes of McNeil and Calvert-Lewin. So I'm pretty confident. And then looking at Semenyo versus Leicester, we saw what Saka did on that side of the field. He could have easily had, double-digit score there, and Semenyo absolutely tore Southampton a new one on their game on Tuesday night. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident. I'd be happy for 2 out of 3 clean sheets. I'd be happy. I'm expecting maybe save points from Martinez. Defensively, they've looked horrid, which we all know it's not a secret. So, but yeah, I'm sort of stuck on the Haaland captaincy. I feel like after last week's performance, he might come out and bang in another hat-trick or at least 2 goals in that fixture. I definitely think Fulham are there to be got. I don't think defensively they're rock solid. I feel like they still give up a lot of chances. So, yeah, for me, I'm pretty confident I'll go Haaland captain, but Saka against that Southampton side looks very tempting.
I love it, Quentin. That's absolutely fantastic. You got a nice structure about you, and it seems maybe the fortunes have flipped for this season in comparison to last. So it's so pleasing to see. Keep up the momentum. Yeah. Speaking of momentum, now someone has just invaded himself in the comments. Okay, so first of all, good evening. Okay, Jack. Yeah, public candlestick in the library. Chris Wood. Now, watch your space just as I'm about to reveal my team. Nice haircut. When you get it. Oh, God, Jack. I don't mean to be honest, but shut up. Like, I just have to be dead honest. Shut up. But, no, look, it's a nice haircut. I believe that's why I'm wearing it. So, yeah, speaking about believing the Ted Lasso model, that's probably a motto I need to incorporate as I'm heading to game week 7. We're sitting X for M, expected 4 million club. And of all outcomes, I reckon it's just going to roll. So this is the team we got. Flecken in goal. Alexander-Arnold. Now, don't ask me how a polar bear in Texas is still there from game week 1, but Mikalenko's finally got his debut on field, having been on the bench for the first 6 weeks of the season. Gabriel just slotting that left centre back. Mbumo, the Boom Boom, Shakarumo, Semenyo, Diaz, Saka, Rogers, Haaland captain. And I like a Solanke pick at the moment. Now, I've got a question for you, Quentin. Are you ready?
Yep. Chris
Wood on field or Morgan Rogers?
Morgan Rogers.
Okay, cool. I thought that too. I know Wood can score pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like Wood could possibly get a goal in that fixture, but Rogers for me is such a focal point of that attack, and we've started to see the returns over the last 2 game weeks where I feel like the ball's going to keep rolling with that, especially against United.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, as it stands, probably in a better position in comparison to when I was about to enter into wildcard territory. 3 free transfers now, 0.9 in the bank. It's probably a fair opportunity to evolve this week. Am I right in saying?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything glaring to sort of change. And I feel like we've seen in previous weeks, if you do sort of knee-jerk and make those decisions that you might not be sold on, it sometimes can bite you in the butt. So I actually feel like the where your side's at the moment, I feel like you're in a pretty good position. And, Everton could possibly tighten the strings this week against the Newcastle side that hasn't looked great in attack. So imagine if it finished 0-0 to Everton. So
yeah, I know.
And defenders have been absolutely horrible this year, as I said, outside of Arsenal and the odd clean sheet from Liverpool. No team's getting clean sheets. So bank your 2 points and then move on.
Bank 2 points. Well, that's XC. That's expectancy in terms of points at the moment. Now, without further ado, let's get a captain's corner because we've got a bucket ton of options, which is why I've come right here. We're going to start with Norwegian in focus at home to Fulham, who managed to get a hat-trick in the corresponding fixture last season. He succumbed, however, to his first blank away from home for the campaign, which is at Newcastle. However, at the Etihad so far, he has been formidable, averaging 13 points per game, scoring 6 goals from his 3 appearances. His 31 shots, 29 in the box, and 21 on target are all league leading totals. Mo Salah, who's away at Crystal Palace. So this is a great track record. 8 goals and 5 assists in his 14 appearances against the Eagles. His 11 big chance involvements this season is equal to the Norwegian. Plus, he's delivered double figures in each of Liverpool's first 3 outings for the campaign. Hey, it's Bukayo spicy time. It being Saka, who is entertaining the Saints, who really aren't marching in this season, let's be honest. Along with Haaland, he's only blanked just once this season, it being last week. But if you really want to count bonus points as a return, technically, he hasn't blanked. His 12 big chances created is only bettered by in the league. And speaking of, he's the next person on show at home to Nottingham Forest, coming off a big 25-point haul. His 7 big chances and another 7 being created are also a league high. The most transferred in with nearly 700,000 managers having already transferred him in since that Brighton masterclass. Brighton Brumo certainly one to consider, having averaged 10.5 points per outing. 2, along with Ollie Watkins, who seems to be finding his feet at the moment at home to Man United. However, it was an opponent of him last season in which he managed to blank in both outings. That is it for Captain's Corner. Plenty of choice, probably a particular obvious one, but not as clear-cut as usual. That is it, and we'll bring Quentin from Hogwarts back into the studio. You got a wild prediction. Are you locking in Captain Haaland as your captain?
Yeah, I think at this stage, I'll be very brave to go against Haaland against a Fulham side. And I feel like, as I said, they will have a point to make this week. And, they've lost top spot in the league to Liverpool. So they want to come out and make a statement this week. And I feel like that could mean, a monster haul from the Norwegian meat shield. But Saka, I think, is a really good captaincy option as well. As I mentioned, Southampton. Semenyo looked like he could have scored a few more goals, and I feel like that Arsenal attack is probably a lot better than what Bournemouth are. So I feel like they could be in a lot of trouble this week, Southampton. And, I don't mind people going like a Salah against Palace. I feel like Palace has looked really dodgy at the back as well. They've given up a lot of chances. It's just that sides aren't converting those chances. So I feel like Salah's a really nice outside chance. I don't think he'll be highly captain this week. So I think people that are brave, chucking it on Salah this week, I think that could be a little bit of a differential captain this week. And my biggest, Maverick captain this week is Semenyo.
Yes, I think it's a great option too. I think how bad Leicester have been so far, plus Semenyo. I think his 28 shots are only second to Haaland in the league too.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to see Semenyo getting 3 bonus and 2 goals this week.
That's fair. Right, before I end the post, Quentin, was there anything else you wanted to say that I've completely forgotten? Because sometimes I do, and then Reidy holds me accountable.
No, you've been on the ball tonight, mate.
Look, thanks, mate. I've got to be back on the ball tomorrow morning for a nice 80k bike ride as well. And Quentin, more importantly to you, look, I understand life has gotten away for some of us panel members through the last fortnight, including myself. But as always, thank you to you for always being command on your services and putting in time to come onto this podcast. We really appreciate it.
No, definitely. And as I said, you don't have to ask. I think this afternoon I said, yeah, what time? You didn't even ask. You just messaged me to say hello and said, what time do you need me? So as I said, I'm willing to come on whenever.
Beautiful. All good. Thank you very much as always. We'll be back after the international break for Game Week 8. Guys, enjoy the international break because let's face it, most of us people don't really anyways because it's just a bunch of pointless friendlies. And before we go, Colm is asking what Jack is eating. He is certainly eating shit. Catch you on the other side, Vol, on the match day.